Today I'm showing you the only 3 endgames you actually need to know to stop throwing wins away. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip around. Let's get started. First off, the square. The square is pretty much, if you're trying to figure out if the king can catch this pawn, what you do is you make a little square like this. If the king is in the square, the king can catch the pawn. So here, the king can catch the pawn like this. If the king is outside of the square, the king cannot catch the pawn, right? And so to demonstrate this, the king can't catch it, right? But now, let's say the king's here, and the pawn's here. It's like this is the position. You wanna promote your pawn, right? You don't want your pawn to be in front of your king, right? You want it to be like one square behind or right next to your king. So here, if it's your turn and you're white, you should go up one, and now you have the opposition because the kings are facing each other. Black goes there. You want to go here, you're taking the opposition, but once the king moves, you can move too, and you can push. But if black's king sees your pawn, then you gotta take opposition. So you can move again, and then here, take opposition again, and then you go here, and then you walk the pawn up the board, and you're going to promote. Now if you don't have opposition, you could draw this, so that's why this is important. And a common beginner blunder is pushing the pawn while the king is too far away. That's right. So if this is the position and you're pushing, that's not right, because you need your king to be close to the pawn, right? And now if black moves their king away, you gotta stay close to your pawn, right? Don't just push, right? You gotta stay close to your pawn, right? Like here, you don't want your pawn to be in front of your king, really. And this is like really bad, because now it's like this, and then this, and then this, and then. So yeah, you gotta keep your king and pawn real close to each other, unless black's king, or your opponent's king, is far away. And then another position I want to look at is this one. So in this position, it's a draw. If black plays correctly, it's draw, right? So for example, here, stalemate. The only time when a pawn on the A or H file isn't a draw is if black makes a mistake, or if black is like here, then you can promote. But if the position is like this, it's stalemate. It's going to be stalemate. It's draw. And so this position alone decides a huge number of beginner games. Section 2 is basic checkmates. So we're going to go over the queen and king versus king, the rook and king versus king. If you already know those, then use the timestamps in the description or on screen to skip ahead to section 3. Alright, now let's go over these checkmates. So if you have a king and a queen, your opponent just has a king. So what you want to do is you want to kind of get your queen and the king into this like kind of like a L, right? Like a knight. Your king covers C squares, and you want always be getting the king into the L. So, and then if black's king is already in L, you move it to a different like L shape, and then you want it to be, so you want to get into this position where your queen covers all of these squares. Black just has 2 squares to go back and forth while you bring your king, right? And black's just going back and forth, and you bring your king, and you get the mate, right? So your queen cuts space, your king locks up, you move squares slowly for black until black just has 2 squares. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go after black goes there, go there. That's stalemate. This is not stalemate. This is what you want. Yeah, so some beginner mistakes here are random checks. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you just go, oh, okay, I'm gonna do a check, and then another check, and then another check, and then another check. That's a mistake. Another mistake is stalemate. We went over that. Second position is the rook and the king versus the king, so it's the same thing, but you have a rook. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to choose any side. I'm going to choose this side, right? And you want to get your opponent's king to that side so you can checkmate them. So what you want is the row that your opponent's king on, you want to do one row before that, and then your idea is you bring your king and you want to keep pushing the king back until the king gets to this row and you can checkmate the king. So here you're gonna go to this side, and if black chases the rook, that's okay. So what you want is you want opposition, right? So you want to get into this position where the kings are staring at each other, and then you can go there so that black's king will go back. So, but what if you don't have opposition, right? What if this is position and it's your turn? What do? Right? Well, you want to get opposition. So you don't just go here, because then black's going to go back, right? So you have to make it so that black moves into opposition. So how you do that is you don't move your king here, okay? You move your rook. So let's say you move your rook to their side. If black goes there, you go there. If black goes there, you go here. Black goes there again, you go here again. Black goes here, you go here. Black has to go back, you go opposition. So you move there, and then you just repeat the process. And you don't want to end your move with opposition, right? You want to be like this, right? You want to get opposition, but you don't want to move into opposition, because if you go here, black moves there, right? And you can't get up, and you're not in opposition. And then here, right, if you're just a square away from opposition, it's your turn. Don't move your king, move your rook. Black's either going to go into opposition, and then you go down, or black goes there, and then you go there, and black goes back, and then you pretty much just repeat this. You repeat it until you get checkmate, right? Black attacks your rook, you just move, and eventually it's going to be checkmate. That's the rook and king versus king. Now let's go on to section 3, which is going to be rook and pawn versus rook. I'm just going to go over the basic rook endgames. If you want a video on the other rook endgames, let me know in the comments. This is the Lucena, right? And so you're going to get your rook up to the 4th rank. You're going to get your king, and then black's actually not following the script, but that's okay. So we're just gonna have to defend the pawn, and here we have to make sure the pawn is defended all times. We need to get the rook out of there, and we promote, and yeah. And then after that, I would take the rook back and checkmate. So that was the Lucena. Now we're gonna go on to the Philidor. So this is the Philidor position. So we're gonna move our rook up to the 3rd rank. We're at the 6th rank. We're gonna go back here. So now we can give checks from behind, right? Checks from behind. Now we take the pawn, and that's how you draw. And then some beginner mistakes here is putting the rook behind the pawn, or letting the king walk up for free. So yeah, and so the quick summary is the winning side is trying to shield the king, the defending side is trying to cut the king off, and then yeah, so that's pretty much that's the Lucena and Philidor. So those 2 ideas, the Lucena and Philidor, will cover most rook endgames you'll ever play. Before you go, you can know every endgame perfectly, but if you hang a rook on move 42, you still lose. The problem isn't knowledge, it's your decision making under pressure. That's why I've made a 4-week system that stops the blunders costing you 200 plus rating points. It's a Notion template, and inside you get a 4-week pattern mastery program with each week focuses on a different theme. You get 28 daily training checklists, you get the 5-question blunder prevention system, you get a curated tactical puzzle library, you get weekly review templates, you get a rating progress tracker, you get the complete Notion workplace, and you get a final transformation report. And the offer is $19.99, but the first 50 people to use the link in the pinned comment get 25% off. So make sure to get it now before other people get it. And if you don't gain at least 100 rating points, I'll refund you. It's your risk. Links in the pinned comment. Either fix the problem or keep losing your call.